the meeting to order. Board policy BD states that at the organizational meeting after an election is certified, the superintendent presides and acts as temporary chairman of the meeting until such time as a new chairman is elected. In accordance with South Carolina Code of Laws 1985, Section 30-4-80-E, the following have been notified of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting: the Herald, the Charlotte Observer, CN2, WRHI. Would you please join me in a moment of silence? Thank you. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Board members, you have received a copy of the agenda for the Wednesday, January 5th, 2022 Fort Mill School Board meeting. Are there any corrections or changes?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Being none, the agenda will be approved as submitted. Thank you all for helping me. Board policies BD and BE requires election of board officers. I will now open the floor for nominations for the office of chairperson of the board.
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Christy Spears as chair for the school district.
I second.
Have any other nominations? We'll close them with a second. Or let's vote to close the nominations. All show of hands to close the nominations. Okay? So, at this time, I think, Ms. Spears, it's time for you to take over. You are elected the chair.
We don't have to vote on
Better
it?
do the vote.
I thought we voted. Did we vote?
We voted to close nominations.
Okay, well, let's vote on whether or not you are the chair or not. All in favor of the nomination of Christy Spears as chair, please signify by raising your right hand.
No, we're
Opposed?
Ricky, we
Same
want
sign.
Specific hands and everything. What the
Okay,
heck?
I tried not to mess it up, but I did. Okay, take it away.
So the hot seat's back to me.
That's right.
Thanks. No, I appreciate it. Appreciate the continued confidence. At this time, I will entertain a motion for vice chair.
I'd like, go ahead. Go ahead.
You need me to move?
Second.
Oh,
Oh.
you didn't.
You gotta make a motion
Somebody
first.
actually make it.
I'd like to nominate Michelle Branning as the vice chair for the coming year. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for Michelle Branning as vice chair. Are there any other nominations? All right, at this time, nominations will be closed. All those in favor of Michelle Branning as the vice chair, please signify by raising your right hand.
Right hand.
All right, it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Michelle, congratulations. You will continue to be our vice chair.
Thank you.
All right, order is back in the universe.
You know, you should probably make note that we have
I was
friends.
gonna say, so we only have 5 of us up here. We do have on the phone Mr. Murphy and Dr. Frateroli, who are joining us virtually today. So thank you guys for being here. Our policy does not allow them to vote, so they are listening in. Our first item of business after that is some special recognition. So I will let you, I see
I believe
some
Mr.
folks
Burke's
here.
gonna handle
Yeah.
the recognition today.
Dr. Frateroli raised his hand.
Good evening. It's nice to get out of the back of the room for a little bit here. Tonight we have a chance to recognize some students from Nation Ford High School in their graphic design program. Each year the district creates the comprehensive annual financial report for the school district. That is a document that a lot of districts basically compile the legal documents need to go into it, file it away, and never do anything with it. Well, here we like to make it a showpiece, and it has been an award-winning document for our students in the past. We're hoping that this one is going to be just as award-winning because we'll be submitting it because we're very proud of the design, but we'd like to recognize a couple of the students who created it. I'd like to ask Roderick Thomas and Matthew Millay. Did I pronounce that correctly? Mealing. I knew I was going to botch that. If I could have them come to the front along with Mr. McConkey and Mr. Chanular, you can join us up here as well too. Tonight we actually have copies of their document. The board has seen this. They got it in December when we finally got print done. But this will be the first time these guys have seen it in print. We're going to be presenting them with their own copy of it. They can use this as a portfolio piece moving forward. or just have it to show some of the outstanding work that they've done. This year's theme was the evolution of the library. So as you go through this, each tab has a different era of the library, all the way up to one of the most modern media centers in the district at Catawba Ridge on the back. So it's a wonderful piece to be able to look through and see some nostalgia. I'd also like to point out that almost all of the pictures that were used in it came from historic photos pulled from old yearbooks in the district. So you can actually flip through here and see some of the earliest pictures that were taken in the district in the media center. So it is a fun piece for everybody to look through and see some of the history, as well as just a beautiful design the kids put together. So if y'all would join me in congratulating them, I'd appreciate it.
There's a picture of me in the first grade
I
in
was,
there.
I was gonna say, I'll have to look through and see if there's some pictures that I remember from old days. All right. I hope at the beginning you actually said approval of the agenda. I heard minutes, but our next item is approval of minutes from December 3rd and December 7th. Previously, like I said, I believe it was for the agenda.
Yeah.
So we've had 2 meetings. There are minutes in your package. I know one of them, I had some correspondence with Ms. Lordo and Ms. Pettis about the impact fee numbers and making sure we didn't transpose a couple numbers. Got those all corrected? Awesome, thank you. Were there any other adjustments or corrections?
I did not see any.
All right, then those will stand. Do we have any public participation this evening? We do not. All right. Then we do have a number of staff reports, so we'll move into that section, starting with various financial updates from Ms. Lordo.
Okay, good evening. Good to see everyone again after the holiday break. Tonight, we are starting out with the monthly financial report as of November 30th that was in your packet. This is the 5th month in the new fiscal year. As you can see, total revenues were $46,284,515. Total expenditures were $63,595,969. That is a use of cash flow of $17.3 million. Just to remind you and the public, November is the lowest cash flow of the fiscal year because we expect property tax collections will begin coming in the majority in December and January. We did collect real estate taxes of $5.2 million in November as the property tax bills went out in October. Vehicle tax collections remain consistent at $950,000 for the month of November. We did have a little bit of fee in lieu that came in of $174,000. One thing I noticed when I reviewed it is that the Act 388 Tier 3 money that began in October, which is $1.8 million, the county did not post to our accounts as of October. We are checking on that. I suspect it came in December 1st or 2nd, and they did not post it back as of November. So we're verifying that, but that is a monthly state revenue item. So if you look at, we went into cash flow, fund balance of 17.3. It was really more around 15 million. Does that make sense? Which is more comparable to where we were the same period last year at this time.
Was it last year that the bills were late?
It was last year. Yes. So we'll be very curious to see, once we have not received any reports yet for December tax collections, to see what December brought in
I sent mine.
for us.
I was gonna say, or unless
They
people
just
like me.
didn't-
Yeah.
this is the last one.
No, I sent mine in December, but they didn't process it until January.
So we'll see, I'll report on that next month. But any other questions about the monthly financials for November or year to date?
I have one.
Okay.
This is just browsing over the school bus driver salary. Curious, how are we doing staffing-wise?
Staffing wise for transportation, like several of our areas, we are still open to any new bus driver applicants. We are about 23 positions short, and that's what we've been tracking this whole first semester of the school year. We currently have, I checked, we have 8 double loads at the elementary level because of that shortage. We have open applications online. We encourage anyone interested to apply, call us and discuss it. Our bus drivers, for the most part, are on a 6 to 8 hour a day full-time contract, and they do receive state benefits. So if anyone's interested, we do have open bus driver positions.
Have rates changed over the last year or two?
We have, over the last couple years, yes, increased bus driver starting pay, and we're always monitoring that in relationship to surrounding districts. And all of the districts try to reasonably remain at the same level. We have some slight differences, but we discuss that frequently
So
and make
8
sure we're
Yep.
in the market.
Got it. So maybe someone can answer this here. So 8 double loads, is that a safety issue? Is it?
It's not a safety issue, it's just a volume of capacity. Because
So
if,
they take a load, they come back, or they drop those kids off, and they go get another
That's
round
what
of
we
kids.
mean by double load. Okay, got it.
Correct,
Got it. Okay,
correct,
got it. Thank
correct.
you for clarity.
And
Okay,
the
got it.
problem with it, and elementary principals can help, or Gray, the problem is that we have to adjust instructional time or bump the loads, bump the
Yep.
pickup times sooner.
Earlier for the first round.
So if we had the 23 drivers, it would be much better instructionally, and the kids could sleep later, and you'd start instruction on time. So it's an issue.
And then
There's
the
a domino effect, essentially, right?
Right, I was saying, and then the
Going home,
domino
too.
of the bus being on time to then get a middle school route.
Yep,
And a high school route, and so on and so forth.
So it's
Got it.
not ideal.
got it.
And-
Thank you.
And it's, bus drivers are one of the priorities that's been mentioned at the state level for this year. I mean, obviously, we don't know what that will yield, but it's at least one that's being openly discussed as trying to raise that pay.
and we do pay, the state puts out, just like with teachers, the state puts out a state minimum bus driver pay scale. And all the surrounding districts, we pay well above the state minimum bus driver pay scale.
Got it. Thank you.
As a side note to that, how's our food service staffing?
I-
I know that has been. an
Yeah.
issue.
Tammy's going to come up and talk about her policy, so I've asked her to share some updates with you related to student nutrition staffing. Okay. Moving on to impact fees. Total collected to date is $44,874,188. We've collected on single-family units of 1,796 and multifamily apartments of 1,021 for a total of 2,817. In December, we had 23 homes that came on or were permitted and 9 apartments were added. Comparable rolling data, we now are looking at 2021 compared to 2020, a full year. We are about 36% lower on single family and about 47% lower on multifamily. But calendar year 2021, we collected about 63% of the 2020 single family and about 53% of multifamily, which I think we all somewhat expected just with the general economy, with the pandemic. But we averaged, I went back and looked at calendar year 2021, we still averaged 800,000 a month. Because as you know, it fluctuates. And a lot of that is largely based on if a development opens and they're permitting a large majority of the lots, or an apartment comes online, but we averaged 800,000 a month.
And I can think in my head of driving around town where there are 3 major developments happening right now.
Oh,
So,
On the cusp of
I
going.
can come up with a few more than even
right,
3.
that's really big
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah.
And so,
We've already had some permitting come through these first couple days of January in the new year, if that's any indication of kicking off for this year. Yeah. I wanted to give you an update on the indoor air quality project for Mr. Romanek. We have very happily seen some momentum increase in the ability of our vendor for installation that we're very pleased with. So by the end of this week, we will have completed 12 of our schools. So we're about 60% complete. A lot of work was accomplished over the holiday break related to the installation of the units. We expect the remainder will be finished by the end of this month.
And that's not including the high school yet.
That is not including the high schools yet, correct?
But are the high schools going to occur right on the heel?
Yes. We will just keep moving forward.
You may be planning to mention it, but the reason we are delayed in our initial projection on the timeline is parts and labor.
And labor.
Really
Significant, once again, they were affected by labor shortage on the installer teams.
Probably
But, yeah, absolutely. But we're very pleased with what they accomplished over the break and wanted to give an update on that. And then the last thing I wanted to give you an update on the State Department allocations. As you know, there are several key areas that get updated based on 45-day, and then we'll get updated again based on 135-day enrollment. So the EFA, the base student cost funding, was updated in December for the 45-day enrollment. It increased by 1,224 weighted pupils. Because remember, there's a different weighting for different categories of students. So ours was increased 1,224 weighted pupils, and that equates to 1,393,000, if that stays true through the rest of the year. The state employer fringe allocation, that gets updated based on the 45-day in the formula, and that increased because of our continued growth, hiring, increase in students. That was increased 1,690,000. So that is extremely positive, but it's 1.5 to 7% of the budget. But it does give us some relief if, for whatever reason, tax revenue did not come in as budgeted.
Are those amounts above what was expected in the budget?
Above what we budgeted.
Wow.
So, for example, with EFA, we go ahead and budget an increase in students. Remember, we budget 800 new students. With employer fringe, that is much more difficult to budget, and we budget based on the actual that the state puts in the final budget plan for us. But in a growth district like ours, we do expect to see an increase in that. And it does help us with going into the next year, gives us some additional new revenue in planning for the next budget cycle as well. So it's a much better situation, the one we have, than if we were in a non-growth or declining growth district. But just wanted to give you an update on where we are with those adjustments as of December. Any other questions?
I do, I have some questions.
Okay.
If you're done.
Sure.
And this is from a month ago, last meeting. This is going back to the Green Finney financial audit, so
Yes.
excuse the questions. I
Sure.
got home and forgot about those questions, or actually the questions started
You
accumulating.
read it
so-
over the holiday.
I did, yes. Yes, that's right. So I got a handful of questions
Okay.
for you, just for clarity. So how long have we been using this group?
We have been using Green Finney for our annual audit a little over 10 years,
Okay.
based on my memory, based on my time here.
Who did we use prior?
Elliot Davis.
Elliot
Ellis.
Davis? So help me understand,
Okay.
Is this a specialty niche?
It is very much a specialty niche. And this is my opinion, there are about 3 firms in South Carolina that have the expertise and really specialize in school district audits. And collectively, those 3 firms handle the majority of school districts across the state. Some of the smaller districts may go more with the local firm in their area, but the larger districts use one of these 3 firms because, as you know, school district accounting, finance is very specialized and very different than business operations. And these 3 firms have a close relationship with the State Department. They constantly monitor what goes on at the state level and stay ahead of that. And because of that, they can provide a level of expertise and efficiency in their audit work, different than other firms that may have to spend even more time with us.
So is there anything that stands out to you that may be unique with using this group?
This particular group, some of the things that we have done with them that is different maybe than other districts. One thing kind of off the top of my head is, as I report out to you, the beginning of the year or early fall, we ask them to come in and do a training with our PTO, PTAs, Booster Club officers. That's something we don't have to do, and they don't have to provide that as part of the audit, but that's an additional service that we feel is important and beneficial to our school, to our schools. And we've had great response over the years since we started doing that. They also, when I say specialized, as you know, we currently issue bonds. We go to the bond market. Every time we issue bonds, they have to review, there's a public official statement document. They have to review that and sign off on it, that all of our disclosures to potential investors are accurate. And so we work with them frequently during the year on that as well.
I see, gotcha. So last one here for you. and
Okay,
this is
does that
fun.
help?
It does. Thank you
Okay.
very much, yes. So back to the opinion section. There's an opinion section here. So I'm going to read a couple bullet points and I got a
Okay.
question. So it says in here, maintain effective internal controls. There are limitations on internal controls. Regular risk assessment is important, including assessing the risk of fraud. Now, I know one of the things I believe we've done to mitigate some of this is, and I only know this because I go to a lot of sporting events.
Yes.
Or events around
Yes.
our district. But I know I've been standing in line sometimes, and now someone will look back at me and say, Mr. Bodie, we got fees here. So last meeting, I heard you talk about this, but we're getting fees on this.
Yes.
What can you say to the
So
parents?
one of the things, and I think Mr. Phillips, David Phillips, who's one of the partners that came and presented last month, one of the things that they emphasize is you never can be 100% foolproof with the amount of cash that comes in a school district environment. And one of the things that we have implemented is more online payment by parents. It started with just online fee payment of our annual fees. Now we have expanded that and encouraged our schools to put any kind of sales, ticket sales online. Recently, we moved to GoFan, the app, and we are using that exclusively for all of our sporting events so that we eliminate that cash and that person having to collect the cash, count it, take it to the school office the next day, deposit it. That significantly reduces any mishandling of cash.
And I would say it's gone a lot beyond that, because now, I remember when my daughter was in elementary school, and it would be $3.50 for a field trip, right? And that was usually cash, because who's gonna write a check for, and the T-shirt for the pep rally, and, all of those things are now online with fees, with pay fees as well.
Yes. I can tell you, we've gotten tremendous thank yous and response from our teachers
Great.
who love not having to handle the cash, as well as our school front office, specifically our school bookkeepers.
Well, and from a fee standpoint, we, for the first year or so, I can recall that when we went to the pay field trips and other things online, we as a district absorbed the fee that was
Yes.
associated with that process.
And we still budget and absorb the primary instructional fee that parents pay. But as we have expanded, it's become too costly for us to completely absorb all fees. And so when we implemented GoFan, we were not able to absorb that fee for that reason. But we felt like initially it was very important for us that parents did use the online fee payment system. So we budgeted and plan and cover a portion of the fees each year that we can.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Clarification. Thank you so much.
Any other questions?
Not from me.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have Tammy's favorite meeting of the year.
It is her favorite meeting.
And I don't, you
Y'all
can give
know
us
me
whatever
well.
updates you want, but we have specifically a wellness policy.
Yes, policy ADF. And the items that we're talking about is on page 2. Yes, thank you. The wellness policy is a federal requirement. Any schools that participate in the National School Lunch Program or any kind of federal nutrition program has to have a wellness policy. And in that wellness policy, there are standards that we have to meet. They kind of dictate what we have to have in that policy. And every 3 years, we have to do an assessment, a review of this policy. And from that review, we have 2 areas that we would like to add to the policy. And the first area is foods in the classroom, foods that aren't from the cafeteria. Prior, we had the district will establish what that policy is going to be, so now we have to actually say what that's going to be. And that's all food provided but not sold does not have to meet the Smart Snack standards. So that's what we would like to add. And then the next thing has to do with our fundraisers. We go by the South Carolina State Department of Education for our fundraisers, and so we just wanted to add that link for people to know what that actually is. And it's 30 fundraisers a year, and that has to do with food fundraisers. Each
So it's
school.
not changing, you're just adding the link.
We're just going to add the link to say,
Whatever
hey,
the
this,
process is for the exceptions and the numbers and all that is still consistent with what
Yes.
we've been doing.
yes. Just those 2 changes. Any questions?
No, it's clean.
So, and we're okay not meeting the smart snacks because smart snacks only have to be,
It's complicated. It's like 200 calories. The first ingredient has to be a whole grain fruit, vegetable, meat, or dairy. 200 milligrams of sodium. So it's just really hard to meet. I don't think our teachers want to be calculating if each food they're going to serve their students or classroom parties if they want to do that.
so this is the provided but not sold. So the things we sell still have to be smart snacks.
Yes.
And that has not changed. But what we're clarifying is that other foods that are provided,
To our students.
we are not doing for, I don't want to say profit, but we are not collecting the funds for.
No, it's only we're giving it to the students.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, anything sold on campus has to be Smart
what I-
Snack
that's
approved.
what I was trying to-
Unless it's an exempt fundraiser,
Right.
food fundraiser.
Like Krispy Kreme donuts.
30 a year, yes.
There we go.
That's how many I eat,
That's right. Just 30.
just
30, not 330.
And this is first reading, so we're not
Yes.
voting on it at this moment. You're gonna bring it back for a second reading.
Yeah, I don't know if y'all had any questions, wording, everything looks good.
Not on this, but are you gonna give us some other updates or?
Oh, yeah, I was just telling you about staffing. The staff that we currently have is fabulous.
We wish there were more of them, right?
Yes. So today, for instance, we had 9 people out, and we had no subs, so they have to just do what they got to do to get the job done, and they always go above and beyond. And the schools have been great, understanding, helping us out sometimes in the kitchen. And our participation has grown tremendously. Pre-COVID, we probably fed 14% of our population at breakfast, and now we're doing 35%. Lunch, we were doing 34% at lunch, and now we're doing 60%. So and with that comes more work. So we're about 20 staff members down right now to be where we really need to be. So we've had to close some lines at the middle school. We've closed lines at the high school. Those are the main things that we've done to alleviate not having enough employees.
You need help tomorrow?
We need help every day.
I'll be more than happy to help.
Oh, thank you.
But you are still doing subs.
Oh, yes, we have subs. We have, sometimes when you start back at the first of the year, especially on a Wednesday. They might not want to come until the following Monday. I think we have about 15 subs that we pull from to put at the different schools.
Do your subs have to go through a different training than the school subs, if that makes sense?
No, they have to have the
It is-
same requirements.
It's the same training, it's the same pool technically of resources.
Yes.
But just, you have 15 that typically volunteer for this type of role instead of in a classroom.
Well, they get paid. I mean, they're paid
I'm sorry,
employees.
when I say
Yeah,
volunteer,
yeah, they're,
take a sub position
Yes.
for this type of a role versus a classroom. So,
right. They go to the different schools, and we just tell them where they can go, or they tell us what schools they want to go to or when they want to work. They just aren't.
So I don't know if there's an opportunity, it seems like it's been a while since we've put out a call, because, we didn't used to do a lot of subs in the cafeteria. That's a fairly new thing, right?
Right.
I see people all the time looking for part-time work while the kids are in school, so.
Yeah, we advertise a lot on the Fort Mill Moms page, Facebook, neighborhood communities. That usually does the best to get people in here. We had an interview today, so as soon as the application hits, we call them, come in, yes, you're hired. So, yeah, we hired two people today. You have to do background check, TB test also.
And that is the thing. Unfortunately, we're still not able to have volunteers in the schools. So that's the problem. It's not as easy as just volunteering to help out right now. I know we'll all be glad when that is a possibility again.
Yeah,
So I wouldn't be able to help tomorrow then, is that correct?
probably not.
Got it, okay.
Not in that way.
Got it, understood, okay.
Yeah,
You can get your TB test and go through a background
Yeah.
screening.
It'll have
Even then,
faster
you really
process.
can't because.
FortMillSchools.org,
Right.
student nutrition.
Noted.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hey, can I ask one more? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm assuming that the eatership is up because it's free.
Yes.
Do we have any indication if that is continuing or changing?
They haven't told us one way or
We know it's
the
good right
other.
now through the end of the school year?
Yes, until
know for sure?
probably summer feeding can still be free, and then I don't know what happened in August. I just can't imagine them taking it away, but I don't know how they're gonna fund it.
But, yeah. So, okay,
Yeah.
That word. It's kind of like
Leadership.
it's kind of like terrain.
that's right.
Right?
Okay, thank you. All right. I don't see Rich Todd. Oh, there he is. He's in the back.
Hi.
We're getting a safety update next from Mr. Rich Todd.
All right, thank you for the opportunity to let me come in this evening. It's been a while since we did one of these updates. So I was going to hit on a couple of major things we've done over the past couple of months. The first, I'm very excited to share with you on the next slide, Joe. We were notified on December 23rd that we were awarded the School Violence Prevention Program grant in the amount of $486,212. That does require a 25% local match, so the district's portion, that'll be about $162,000. But the $486,000 is what the federal government's going to give us for the projects that we identified. We have 3 years to expend those funds, which we're ready to get started as soon as we get the award officially accepted and get the payment process. We've already talked to the vendors and we're ready to go. So it won't
So
take
is
us
this
3
common?
years.
Is this? the-
This is awesome.
Sorry?
Well, I think someone answered it,
It's awesome, not common.
Yeah, definitely not common.
yeah.
Yes, we were very ecstatic to get it. Again, it came December 23rd, so that was my Christmas present.
Right.
Very happy to get it. And I do want to mention that I think a big selling point for this was a letter we included from our public safety partners, the fire departments, police departments, the county emergency management, 911, all signed off on a letter for us saying they concurred with our request for the grant. I think that played a big part in us getting it, showing that community support that we have and we enjoy here. I want to touch upon a couple of the key things that we're looking to do with the grant. First was the public safety radio reception. This has been an issue with our public safety liaison group we meet with once a quarter. This is an issue they've raised every time we meet. That police, fire, EMS radios don't work in some of our schools. The reception doesn't work in the schools. So with this grant, we're going to be able to test all schools that have not been tested. There's been 13 that have not been tested. We'll be able to test the reception in all schools, and we have the money to put the systems. It's a distributed antenna system or bidirectional antenna system in at least 5 schools, we think, 4 or 5 schools, possibly 6, depending on how some of the other costs come in for the grant. So we know Catawba Ridge is going to get a system, Nation Fort High School, Banks Trail Middle School, and then the other two schools we're still, we'll determine after we get through with the test.
And to be clear, that additional antenna, if you will allow all cell service or a specific channel for emergency to work? What?
So it's just for the police, public safety radios. York County has their own public safety radio system. So police, fire, EMS, once we get these systems installed, they should be able to receive and transmit within those
So
buildings.
it's specifically an antenna to boost the availability of that transmission?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Got
It's not cell phones, it's public safety radios. So we're very happy to be able to do that. And again, that's been the biggest issue raised by our public safety partners since I've started 3 years ago. We'll also beef up our radio communications within the district. So we've looking to purchase about 100 more portable radios. And I shouldn't say that number because I know I get all kind of emails tomorrow saying, we need more, we need more. With some additional portable radios to make sure all the folks in the school that we can accommodate that need them have those radios, and some accessories to go along with that. We're going to reprogram all of our portable radios in the district to have a capability where an administrator can go on, for example, and issue a lockdown, and it will send an audible tone and then flash lockdown on the radio. So everybody that has that radio has a radio that's turned on, regardless of the volume. They're going to get that tone. It's going to flash the message across, lockdown, tornado warning, whatever the case is. So we're very, very excited about that as well.
So a quick question for you. So from a modeling standpoint, so help me understand, so who typically has the radios? I know it's sporadic, but I'm curious, what's our model when it comes to who has radios?
In the school, who has
Yes.
the school radio?
Yes.
With all the administrators, of course, have them. There are certain teachers that if they have special needs classes, some of
Okay.
those have radios if they may need assistance. A lot of the radios, like in elementary schools, they're shared when they go out for recess. Anytime they're
Okay.
outside, we want them to have a radio.
Yep.
The custodians, maintenance guys, not all of those have them. That's one group, two groups to be getting these new radios. A lot of it we leave to the principals to kind of decide who needs those radios.
Got it, 10-4. Thank you.
All right, next slide.
Wasn't intentional, but sorry.
That's okay. The wayfinding signage, what we're looking to do is to number each doorway that gives you access to the interior of the building. Right now, if we call and let's say the police are responding, and we say, we need you in C wing, they're gonna be like, where's C wing? So with this, we'll have signs on the outside and the inside, and we can say, go to door number 3. They'll be able to look and they'll know exactly where door number 3 is. We're hoping to color code it. As you probably know, our law enforcement all have badges that allow access to our schools. So we're hoping to code it so like it's green if it's a card reader, red if it's not. So if the police show up, I can't get in door number 3, but I can get in door number 2. We think it's going to speed up emergency response inside the building. The last category is training. We received funding to send one person from the district to the South Carolina Association of School Resource Officer Conference in Myrtle Beach each year. We're trying to work on a process, but we hope to kind of use that as a way to reward one of our SROs and allow them to go to the training each year. They'll be required to come back and share what they learned, but at least it's a good way, I think, to get them some additional training and help them out with that. Video equipment, principals are going to love this because now we can make our own training videos. We have Safe Schools, which is effective, to a degree, but these videos will be, what we have in mind is kind of very short, 3-4 minute videos focused specifically on district policy and protocol that we can share with our staff members. So we already have some scripts written. We're just waiting to get the equipment and get started making those. And then some miscellaneous training supplies, some money for that as well. So again, we're very happy to get this grant. I mean, it's a tremendous boost for us and some of these issues we've been working on for the past couple of years.
Congratulations, and thank you for taking the time to apply for it.
Thank you, appreciate it. All right, Joe,
Question?
any questions about the grant before I move on? Okay, so I want to talk about a couple of tabletop exercises we've done. One was in May 2021, and that was just district leadership. The York County Office of Emergency Management came in and did the tabletop for us. It was actually a train derailment exercise that impacted 4 schools, and we had to go through the process. How would we evacuate those 4 schools? In the middle of that process, they said no, 2 have to shelter in place, so we had to kind of reverse course. But it kind of gave us a good chance to look at our strengths and our weaknesses when it came to emergency response. We didn't get enough from that one, so we brought in SLED in December 2021, right before the break, to do a reunification exercise. You can see the group of folks who participated in that exercise. We had the high school principals and safety APs came in and participated, district leadership, of course, police, fire, EMS, the coroner's office, emergency management, 911 all came to participate in that. And again, it was a little bit more in detail, a little bit more detailed than the May 21st one. Kind of gave us a chance to coordinate with some of those other agencies and have them point out some things that they saw with our planning and response. And I do want to thank Dr. Reps for allowing us to do this. This is, you know, they were about 3 hours each, and to pull all district leadership pretty much and principals to come participate, I think really says a lot about the district and Dr. Reps' commitment to safety and security. So I do want to thank him again, Dr. Reps, for allowing us to do these exercises.
It was challenging. The SLED agent put us through, his role was to present us with a problem, and then you'd have it halfway figured out, and he'd present you with another problem. So it was fluid, and our staff was amazing. I'm so proud of what your department and Gray and others have done in the way of safety. It's a lot of things we can't share with the public because they're safety things that we don't want the bad guys to know about it. But it's really, we've thought of a lot of contingencies here. You would have been impressed with the work that your staff has done.
I'll tell you, SLED came in thinking they were going to be our enemy when they left, but he gave us a lot of praise and feedback and how prepared we were and where we were at. We still have ways to go, of course, but
he pointed out that
we're
Aiken
definitely
School District led the state in preparedness, and he had worked with them. And I asked him, he said, well, y'all are yards ahead of them where they were when they started. So we're in good shape. We're not to Aiken yet, but we're in good shape.
we'll soon pass them. It won't be long.
Sounds like a challenge.
That's right.
All right, next, Joe. I want to really kind of recognize our administrators. We did a school safety leadership forum back in July, and it was a 2-day forum. We brought them in. All of our administrators participated. It started with 2 online FEMA courses. I made no friends with that one whatsoever because they are not the most interesting courses, but I'm very proud and happy to say 100% of our principals and assistant principals have completed those 2 courses. And that really gives us the framework to work with other agencies in emergency, common language, common protocols. So I'm very happy that we have 100% completion rate of that. These are the topics we covered in the 2 days. The first day was kind of a classroom base, and we talked about these issues, kind of gave them a back overview of our security program so they know it's not just me. You know, we talked about the School Safety Advisory Committee, we talked about the Public Safety Liaison Group, talked about the Security Working Group, kind of everybody that has a hand in school safety and about their role in school safety as well. We had a couple of exercises that day, got a review of the threat assessment process. Was very happy with our partners that came in, kind of our public safety partners. The solicitor's office sent some folks over, the Department of Social Services. Very entertaining and informative presentation they gave. And then Fort Mill and TKK Police also spoke to them about the SROs and some emergency response, their role in emergency response. The second day, they each got to go through an emergency response scenario, which I hope they enjoyed it. They didn't know what they were walking into. They were basically told they need assistance in the classroom. And when they walked in, they either walked into a hostage situation, a suicidal individual, or a medical emergency. And really that was just to get them thinking about how would I respond to these type of incidents.
Well, and they had no clue.
They had no clue until they opened that door where they were walking into.
Wow.
But they all did very well. We had the Fort Mill Police with us. They gave feedback, gave them some really good feedback. So I think they got a lot from it. I hope they did. And I really enjoyed doing this. And again, I think a lot of credit goes to our administrators for going through this. I didn't really get any pushback from it. And I think they all got something from it. I enjoyed working with them over those day and a half. All right, next. If you're familiar with the I3 conference, we were invited last year to come do a presentation about crime prevention through environmental design. That's one of the concepts that we use when we do our site assessments. And we were asked to co-present with the security director from Spartanburg District 5. I guess we did okay because they asked us to come back this year, and this year we've been asked to come back and talk about our training program. We tried to get away from just doing PowerPoints and videos to do a more interactive, hands-on training with our staff members and our administrators. So we're going to take, hopefully, a representative from Fort Mill Police and TKK Police to help us with the training and go up and kind of talk a little bit about the training that we we put together here at Fort Mill School District. So we're very, very proud to, they've asked us to come up and present again. All right, next. We do a lot of trainings, and to me, that's kind of one of the most critical things to prepare for emergencies is to continue training. We had some special guests come in and speak to us in September. Mr. Robert Grant, who's the Assistant Superintendent of Operations for Orangeburg County Schools. He came in and gave an overview of the Orangeburg County High School shooting that happened like the third day of school, I believe. There were 3 individuals shot outside the school. Gave us a really good presentation. He spoke to our reunification group. We were able to stream it so our administrators and SROs at the schools could watch it if they were available. Talked about the reunification, some of the challenges that they had. So excellent presentation on his part. If you do go to the I3 conference, he's doing a deep dive. So definitely I recommend going and listen to Mr. Grant speak about that incident. November, we had Chief Nathan Ellis. I know most of you probably know Nathan from all the conferences he speaks at. He came down and met with our group to talk about the monthly self-assessments and walk us through each one of them and walk through Fort Mill High School. It just kind of shows what we're looking for. So we're getting on track to start doing those self-assessments, hopefully pretty soon. All right, next. I just want to touch on a couple of safety upgrades that we've done. Just to give you an idea of kind of what we're looking at. So this is Gold Hill Middle School. In the cafeteria, if you're familiar with it, the cafeteria, let's say you come into the hallway, there's some doors on this side. Then on this side of the cafeteria, there's exit doors that go out towards the bus ramp. And this picture was taken to the far corner to the left when you walk in. And we did the site assessments. One thing we noticed is if students or staff members are sitting here and something happens on this part of the cafeteria, they're trapped. There's no way for them to get out of the building. That's a storage room to the right and storage area to the left, so there's nowhere for them to go. So we worked with Joe Romnick and Jay Taylor's guys to address that. And the next slide, this is what it looks like now. So now that area, there's emergency egress, and I believe Jay's going to do some work out there to make that actually a little bit more usable space during the school day for the school as well. So I just want to kind of show you a little bit of some of the things we continue to work on for the assessments that we did about 2 years ago now.
It's nicely done.
Very good.
Emergency communications, and I want to thank Leanne for helping us with this one. I went to Rock Communications a year or so ago and asked if there's a way we could access the intercoms on our radios. They worked and found a way to make it happen. So now with Pleasant Knoll Elementary that's being completed over the holidays, all of our schools now, the administrators can all access the all-call intercom from their radios. So in an emergency, that's absolutely critical, that immediate communication to everybody in the school. And I know some of the schools use it throughout the day, when it's not an emergency, they can still use it, but it's just a tremendous communication capability that we have. And I don't know many districts that have that, so I give Rock Communications a lot of credit for finding a way to make that happen.
When there are issues at a particular school, but there's a shared campus, for example, Fort Mill Middle and Fort Mill Elementary, the communication we have on one campus, Fort Mill Middle, for example, can they also communicate directly and immediately with Fort Mill Elementary? Or is there another step they have to take to get to the administration at Fort Mill Elementary?
So all of our radios are programmed the same throughout the district. So Fort Mill Middle can just basically drop down. It's one button to push to go to Fort Mill Elementary, and then they can communicate on Fort Mill Elementary's channels. So that's, by radio, they can communicate with the school next to them, but it's only if it's in close proximity.
Right. They
Fort Mill Middle and Elementary.
communicate with Gold Hill, for example.
Correct. Even Catawba Ridge, we got to test and see, but hopefully Catawba Ridge can talk to Forest Creek. Forest Creek can talk to Catawba Ridge. So if they're in lockdown, they can go on the radio and say, hey, we're going into lockdown, or we have something going on. So they can use those channels, or they're always the district channel they can get on. All the administrators have the district channel. They can get on the emergency channel and say, hey, Fort Mill Elementary, we got this going on. So there's 2 different options they have as far as the radios.
Thank you.
Good. And then just quickly, some ongoing projects. We're working to identify severe weather shelter areas. Emergency management came in, I believe it was last year, and did a class for all of our safety APs on kind of where they should look at for sheltering students for tornadoes. We also have Jill Watts, who came to us from Rock Hill. She works in maintenance, but she's very experienced in doing this, so she's assisting us as well. We've completed, I believe, 7 schools, and we're looking to do the rest here pretty quickly, hopefully before the severe weather season kicks in, to identify those locations. And we also want to get kind of standard signage throughout the district So if you're in a school and there's severe weather, tornado alert comes out, you can say, okay, I can go in that room. It's identified to everybody that's a severe weather shelter. Lightning warning systems are installed at all 3 high schools, at the stadiums, and in Catawba Ridge, there's also one down at the baseball field because they're separated. They are operational, but we don't currently have them turned on to use them until we finish our lightning protocol. So if the siren goes off at a football game, we want to make sure we have a plan how are we going to respond to that. So we're going to work with the safety APs at those schools and the athletic directors to make sure we have a policy in place, a protocol in place, and then all we have to do basically is go in the computer, turn on the systems, and they're operational, ready to go. Working on evacuation of special needs individuals. That's also part of the reunification plan that we did as part of the tabletop, identified a need for that. But working with some folks out at Riverview Elementary to kind of put together a model protocol that we can share throughout the district. Especially if it's multi-story, how do we get those folks from the top floor down to the bottom floor as quickly as possible in emergency? And last, bus emergency exercise. If you're probably familiar, we had a bus accident in October, November, in front of the Greenway. So the Flint Hill Fire Department came to us and asked if we'd be willing to do a bus emergency exercise with them in the spring, just to give them some practice responding to a bus and give us some practice. So we're going to be working with them very soon to get that in place, hopefully as soon as the weather gets nice again, to do some type of emergency exercise with that.
Currently, do we have our students doing bus evacuation emergency drills?
They do, and I don't know if it's once a month, once a year, once a semester, but they are required to do evacuation drills.
The students have
Yes, ma'am.
type of preparation.
Yes, ma'am.
That was always fun.
I
Going
know.
out the back door.
Right?
Yeah, they hop out the back door and
How
hopefully
far
don't
can
run.
you jump? Depends on how big you are.
All right, so that's, any questions? That's kind of just a quick overview of what we've been working on and some of the things we continue to work on.
I got a question, but I would first like to just thank you in your department as well as local law enforcement, emergency services, and all that you're all doing to do your best practically to keep our staff and students as safe as possible. Recently, a concern came to us, since you're on the topic, I'd like for you just to address here is with our active shooter drills and current COVID protocols, how are they impacting that? What do you see there?
Yes, sir. So we're following the SLED guidance. SLED put out guidance beginning of last year. And not just for active shooter drill, we also received guidance for fire drills, how to do those. But with the active shooter drill, following SLED guidance, the drill is conducted really the same way. The only difference is in a non-COVID drill, the students may gather against this wall, and in the COVID drill, the teacher goes and says, in an actual emergency, this is where you will go and this is what you would do. It's actually a little more involved because with the SLED form, there's questions that teachers have to, they're kind of guided to ask the students these questions, and there's questions that the teachers themselves have to answer at the end of the drill to kind of complete the form that SLED gives us. So we're in compliance with what SLED put out about a year ago as far as the drills. And I think they're as effective. I mean, it's the only difference is the kids aren't huddling. We're just telling them where to go and what to do when they get there.
At such time that SLED changes their requirements and we go back to doing them physically, then we'll go back to doing them physically.
Yes, ma'am. As soon as we get that guidance from SLED that we should move in that direction, we'll do that.
Thank you.
Just an update, you probably know this, TKK has a new chief of police.
Yes, ma'am.
So if you've not had a chance to meet him and integrate him into some of these processes, I think it'd be a great opportunity to make sure he knows how integral his staff is in all of these activities.
And I believe, Stumpman, I believe he's coming by next week to meet with the principals. And
Good.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Sir. All right, one more. Marty's going to give us a Cognia update.
A final one, hopefully. Well, a final one launching into the future. Then I'm going to remove my mask so you can hear me a little bit. I think I'm far enough apart. But, well, first of all, Happy New Year, 2022. How about that? This report is called an Accreditation Engagement Review Report. Our first report we got from Dr. Phyllis Gilworth, our lead evaluator, as she exited on the 10th, virtually exited. We had an exit report. And then she followed up with a pretty intensive written report that was in your packet, and I'll just highlight a few things from that report and answer any questions that you may have. First of all, I have a clicker. Oh, it buzzes. Yeah. Cognia is an international, global, nonprofit organization that does two things. It accredits schools and helps to improve outcomes for all students by promoting continuous improvement, making sure that all schools are in that mindset of continuous improvement and growth. What is accreditation? Well, it's kind of two things. One thing it does, and there's a definition from Cognia there, but the way we approach it or think about it is it's a validation of our educational quality. Our student transcripts are coming from an accredited, a globally, internationally accredited school, and that's important on their college applications. So that's one thing that we feel like it does. It also is a tool, as we said, for continuous improvement. And then we really try to use that as we shape the 5-year strategic plan. And as we've talked before, we've kind of coupled those two processes so that they've occurred at the same time, so that as we get these results, we can use those and leverage those to build the new plan. Our team, you can see, you've met them virtually in Zoom, so I won't go back over that. Obviously, Dr. Phyllis Gilworth is from Indiana. The rest are from different districts in South Carolina with varying expertise from data and accountability to federal programs to STEM and instruction, Dr. Sandra Prasad. So they're a highly qualified group. Their role was to gather firsthand evidence of information. And that evidence came from what we provided. You saw all of our documents and our evidence that we provided them. And then when they started their review virtually, we had presentations. And then there were focus groups, interviews with different stakeholder groups. So all of that information they gathered, and then they used the standards, the 31 Cognia standards of educational quality, and use those to assess the quality of our learning environments and then to provide feedback. So it's kind of gather, assess, and give us feedback. There are 3 domains: leadership, learning, and resource capacity. Those are kind of the major 3 areas. And within each of these, there are standards for each of those. And so the way they assess those is based on, they use a quality assessment diagnostic tool. They call it I3, and the 3 I's: initiating, improving, impacting, kind of the lower level. You're starting to do those standards or meeting the standards at a certain level. You're beginning to do some things with that. Improving, you're kind of in the midst of a process or a standard or a practice, and you're collecting data and working to make sure that that positive practice is sustainable. And then finally, at the impact level, it's embedded. It's just kind of the way we do things. It's across the board and embedded in the district. It could have been called the I4, and the 4th I would have been insufficient. You can see at the bottom. In other words, you're not doing that practice or meeting that standard at all. So that's kind of how they assess. It's color-coded. Red is for insufficient, yellow, initiating, green, improving, and blue, impacting. And we wanted to see all blues and greens. And we knew, and we kind of pointed out one area we felt like we were initiating, and we probably would be yellow. And I'll show you the results in a second. You'll see them too. But it was more than just the 31 standards. Each standard had 5 progressively more detailed, more impactful key concepts. So for each standard, 5 key concepts, 155 scores, we first self-assessed and then they assessed. And then they came up with an ultimate educational index of educational quality. So again, it was not just our self-analysis, it was other pieces of the evaluation. Like we said, the review included interviews or focus groups, 211 different stakeholders, 38 parents, 9 community, 44 students, 60 professional staff, 54 leaders, and 6 governing board So here's what they found. In the domain of leadership capacity, I don't know about you, but I see a lot of blue and a lot of, and one green. And that's where we figured we would need, we're always improving on how we use data and how we get multiple stakeholder groups to help with that decision-making process. They commended us on how we're getting information out. We need to continue to work on taking information in and involving more in strategic planning. So that's a growth point for us, and we appreciate that feedback. Domain 2, learning capacity. The first one is the only yellow, actually in the whole report, and we kind of identified that ourselves and through our focus groups and back in spring of 2020 when we started this process, equity in opportunities and access to technology, just across the board in learning to make sure that we are serving all students for them to have optimal outcomes for them. And so that equity piece is the one that is in the initiating phase. The rest of the learning capacity ones are in the improving and impacting. And then finally, resource capacity. The areas there that are in green, obviously that's really positive, that the work that we do from bond referendums and facilities and technology and, involving the community in the impact fee. They were most impressed with how we're doing all that we can to leverage resources for students to improve and impact learning and outcomes for students. A couple of areas that we want to continue to work on is the professional development and induction, mentoring, coaching. That's something that but across the board for all employee groups. So again, we're in that improving stage for that to build more sustainability. And that's what we want to see. We want to see what are the areas that we want to focus on for the plan. And you'll see that as we get to that part. So to kind of sum it up, they gave us, this is from her presentation in the exit conference, overarching themes, visionary leadership, and strong resource management. That's you. As school board members, that's all of you, our district leaders, our principals, our teacher leaders and groups, that leadership, and then strong resource management as shown in the standards. I mean, we're most impressed how aggressive and how committed the community is to providing the resources our students need. That doesn't happen just anywhere, and it takes leadership to do that, and we appreciate that, and they commended us for that. Another theme was the community culture, and I kind of alluded to that community buy-in, and then the committed and dedication to children first every day, all children first every day. They sense that. A couple of notes from the report, and you've read it, but I just couldn't help but pull out a few. Visionary leadership within Fort Mill Schools demonstrates the urgency, and I love her words here, purpose, strong collaboration, and commitment to mission values, mission and core beliefs. A data-driven culture. Last time we had it 5 years ago, that was the one thing they really said, y'all are not collecting data, you're not using data. And now we're still in the improving area there, but that was a real feel-good moment for us in our department as we've tried to get more and more data to teachers and schools for improvement. School pride, evident across the district, the students and parents. Students express, this is really good, speaking about safety and how they feel about teachers. I hope teachers are listening. They express positive comments about how their teachers help them academically, morally, and socially. I thought that was a powerful description of what they felt from those focus groups, and that they feel safe. Students feel safe and cared for. What more could we ask? And then one little exercise they did was we sent it to every employee in the district, and they were to answer this question. This was the day they showed up. She said, "Can you send this out?" And we went, "Okay." And this is what we got. And you can see one word to describe our district, and we were thrilled to see family, supportive, excellent, and a lot of different words, accommodating, amazing. Now, some positive words, but that whole idea of excellence, supportive, and family. And that's how we see our culture, and it was kind of nice to see it, big. Then for deeper consideration, as we mentioned in some of the standards, to ensure equity We need to make sure that we have consistency and constancy across the district. We need to develop non-negotiables. What things are, this is just how we're going to have to all do things. When some schools are doing one thing, some are not, that becomes problematic, but it can't be everything. We've got to prioritize what are the non-negotiables. You don't have 1,000, nobody can keep up with all that, but what are the ones? And that was a good suggestion as we're moving forward. To do some program audits to see how effective programs are. We say we're using this, is it effective? How do we know? Those are some of the questions you ask us a lot. And then to get to ensuring equity and consistency across the district, with the growth and the changing demographics, we have to look at cultural responsiveness. We now have 50 plus languages, and our population is becoming more diverse in every way, from poverty levels, ethnicity, race, and certainly languages. For deeper consideration, again, effective protocols to advance our goals and to determine what are those non-negotiables. And then I guess the main guiding question from that, and we showed this to principals at our last principal meeting, we've got to kind of have a conversation, are we a school system or a system of schools? And so where are those important things that schools have autonomy on, and we want to preserve that and have the unique character and identity of schools, but what are the opportunities for growth so that we can systematically establish those priorities and have consistent implementation and reporting to move forward? And those are some tough questions, and some deep thought needs to go into that. But we agree that if some schools are using, for example, PLCs and their scores are for all subgroups are really improving, what are the expectations across the board for that? So that's just an example. Certainly we have priorities with protocols for safety, for technology use, but we need even more. So there are a lot of things that every strategic planning group is going to have this question to consider as they're developing the new 5-year plan. And so finally, ta-da, drum roll, our institution IEQ is 344.84. That's taken those 155 key concepts and ratings and some algorithm that they won't share with anybody because it's patented, and that's our educational quality score, or the index. And you can see the Cognia International Network 5-year range, average range, is 278 to 283. So we were feeling pretty good about that, 344.84, well above the average range. And then if you can see that a score of 275 globally says that you're beginning to reach the impact level and you're engaged in practices that are sustainable and that are ingrained. So basically, we have a great school system. We have great schools, we have great people, we have a great board, and I couldn't be any prouder to be part of that. Final little notes and quotes. Celebrations exist because of the dedication and hard work of our leaders. Parents and students are privileged to be part of a family that supports the development and success of the whole child. These are their words. These are outsiders' words. And finally, Fort Mill is an exceptional district doing outstanding work. It's evidence that they do not shy away from challenges. And those challenges of growth and COVID and all of the things that have faced us in the last 2 years, knowledge is opportunity. We have this knowledge, we know where we need to grow, and we appreciate your leadership. And I've been privileged to lead this with Renee Beck and Matt Roaring and everybody in this room that's participated in the review process, and now they're hard at work on a strategic planning committee, and we should have a report or a draft of as we move forward in January, and then the final report in April for you to approve for the next 5 years. So thank you so much. Any questions?
I have a few. Just looking at the IEQ range and then where we actually fell, I know that the committee that was working with us was basically South Carolina focused. So is that range a national range? Or
Yes.
Is that so it's not a South Carolina range? Okay, so that's where we're sitting nationally.
Internationally.
Internationally, okay.
Internationally.
I had a question about section 2.2, so I guess that would be your second domain. And it says, the learning culture promotes creativity, innovation, and collaborative problem solving. And to me, this is, we've spent 5 years with Discovery Ed, and, I know that they're getting their answers based on what our staff and the stakeholders gave them. So
As
it would
well
be-
as the engagement survey.
Right. So that's, I'm missing where the disconnect is, knowing that we've worked with Discovery Ed, and this is, from what I understand, one of the reasons why we chose them, why we didn't score higher in that particular section. Would you have any idea, or why they didn't think we did as well here?
I think last time we would have been in the initiating.
Okay, that's.
That was our key area last time, that and the use of data. So we would have been in the yellow last time. And what they're saying is we're improving. We are working on sustainability. And that's the next challenge, is to take where we are to make sure that it is embedded across the district. And so we do still have some work to do, and that's still part of the strategic plan. But we have moved up, and our engagement scores have gone up, but we still have work to do. And I don't know how much, we've also had kind of an interrupted last couple of years, so it's been a little crazy. But no, we'd have liked to have seen it higher, and we still have work to do. And when you induct as many new teachers every year, it's that building the capacity of those, and then adding all the schools, where we had 4 STEAM leaders at each school to start with. When we opened, in 5 years, we've added 5 schools. They've kind of spread out. So some schools, I think, are a little more, it's more widespread than others, and so that's got to continue to be part of our professional development plans, engagement. So good question. We're right with you.
Okay. Would you be able to explain to me section 2.5? On that one, it says that the educators implement a curriculum that is based on high expectations and prepares learners for their next levels. And that one just surprised me too, when we have such high SAT, ACT scores, we have an incredibly high, 94% graduation rate. Our acceptance rates to 2-year institutions, college, 4-year institutions, students graduating with certifications. I was really surprised that they evaluated us here a little bit low. But again, I don't have the previous year, so is this something that we had, that the previous?
No, I wouldn't disagree with you, and I don't have our assessment of that. Again, to get to the impacting level, it's got to be, even within, and I can go back and look, I don't know if we can find that, Matt, or not, in their data, let me go back.
I do think our district does a tremendous job recognizing where students are and where they're heading after graduation. So we do have like work-based learning programs. We've got certifications.
Right.
We have, so I see where we're touching every single student, and I just didn't understand, am I reading this incorrectly, or?
Well, again, I think what's most impressive is how many impacting we had on, across the board to begin with. So if you look at the rubric going from the bottom, initiating is really, there are 2 possible scores, and those aren't actually translating into scores, but you can see on improving, the green, it's really like 2 different levels. So I feel like we are in that sustaining. If we read what it says, results achieved consistently demonstrate growth and improvement over time, a minimum of 3 years. So the desired practice, processes, and programs are deeply ingrained in the culture. I think I don't know if it's the growth thing, that what feedback they got, that they thought we were more at the 4 level, still in the improving, saying we always can improve. So, green is good. Green is good. Impact is all like perfect. I mean, you can't, blue means you really don't need to do anything else, just kind of keep doing what you're doing. And so we do know that we need to probably raise expectations for other learners, maybe, and that gets at that equity piece, perhaps, that there's maybe higher potential in some students, maybe some of our practices are not, and courses are not available to all students that might be able to handle that. So there are some of those things that we're going to have those conversations about. And I don't know if we can see what the scores are or not right now, but we can dig into it a little more. Okay. Any other questions, or do you have another one?
I was just gonna say, especially given the timing of when this was done. And the challenges that the world has faced, that we were not shielded from, that 344 compared to a international average in the 280s is fantastic. So thank you for leading through what I know was a tedious exercise with all 211 people that had to be involved, and the granularity. To your point about with these questions, there's all kinds of things down below, right? The level of detail and information, I know was reams and reams of paper to go through. So thank you and the team for.
And some of the way the questions are written say all, and interpretation of what does all mean. Does all mean 75%? Some places that's what the threshold was. For somebody on the team, it could have been, well, all means all. But, so it is hard to
but it
get perfect on everything. But anyway, thank you. Thank you for your help. Y'all have been great. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, we do have a couple action items having to do with local courses and 2 new ones. Dr. Wadeson.
Good evening. So just a reminder, local board approved courses are courses that the local board has approved that do not appear in the state course catalog. The activity coding manual is the actual name of the document. For the district. So you all have the opportunity to approve courses that we think would be beneficial for our kids that do not appear in the state course catalog. Local boards must approve these courses each year. So we've done that for the last several years, looking at the current courses that we have and if there's any new ones. These courses typically count as electives. The state must also approve them if we want them to count for core area. So if it's like a social studies class or science or math, but all of our current local board courses are elective courses. So this is the list of the courses that we currently have in place, and it has been many years for some of these. I think last year we added a couple, the PE 4, 5, and 6. So the first request I have is for the board's approval for the current local board courses to be able to offer them next year.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the administration for renewal of the locally approved board courses.
Can I get a second?
Second?
We're missing Scott, our seconder.
I know, right?
We have a motion and a
He's
second.
telling me, he's texting me, he's
To approve the, this list of locally approved board courses. Any discussion?
Just a question, it's kind of an assumption here, but all these courses have had sufficient enrollment to justify continuing them. There's enough interest to keep it all going.
Yes, if a course does not have enough students for it, it would not be offered that semester. I believe all of these are currently offered. But if not, so the teachers that would teach these courses would be certified in other areas, so if we didn't offer it, they would teach another class.
Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries.
Thank you. All right, the next thing I have is 2 new proposed courses that we would like for you to consider. And these are Journalism Editor 5 newspaper and Journalism Editor 5 yearbook. And what this would do is allow our students who are very focused and interested in newspaper or yearbook to take the course, both, well, not the same course 2 times, but take editor courses both semesters their senior year. So if you see on the chart there, it has the progression right now of how a student would go through these courses, and adding this 5th level course would allow a student to be an editor for both semesters their senior year, if they're interested. So right now, they do not have that option, so it kind of, someone that has worked for 4 years with the yearbook or newspaper their last semester, they don't have the opportunity. So this would allow for that. Are there any questions on this? All right, the administration would like to ask for your approval for these 2 new local board courses.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the administration for the 2 new proposed local board courses, being Journalism Editor 5 Newspaper and Journalism Editor 5 Yearbook.
Second?
We have a motion and a second for 2 new proposed local board courses. Is there any further discussion? Clarifying question, all schools, all 3 high schools?
It would be available at all 3 high schools, yes.
Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion
Thank you.
carries as well. And with that, I believe we are up to you and your superintendent's report.
Okay, calendar of events, and before I review the monthly events, a reminder to the public and the board and the staff, we approved last year a 2-year, this is about the time of year we normally do the school calendar. We approved a 2-year calendar last year, and I think Rock Hill did, we did, can't remember, I think York 1 did, I'm not sure about Clover. But, so we won't be bringing you a calendar in the next few, it's already approved, it's already out there, so parents can go online and see the dates and make their plans accordingly. So just a reminder about that.
Would we be looking at the following year calendar?
I think we were a little reluctant, Joe, you tell me how the group is. I think we were reluctant to do anything because the legislature's looking at it every year about changing, and
I'm
we're
still on
trying
a
to,
mission.
we're trying to,
But we had that same concern last year, but we went ahead and approved that calendar 2 years in advance.
Because the way the calendar falls for this current year and next year are both
Conducive
conducive to the
finishing
situation that we
semester.
want, but then we get out of that rhythm again on that 3rd year. So. Another. Yeah, and potentially another 2, the next 2 years, but just not quite yet until we see if it gets any traction. Wishful thinking.
that's good, that's good. Okay. But that's just a reminder for everybody. The calendar, of course, the teacher work day yesterday, students returned today, board meeting tonight. We have our monthly principals meeting, then we have the Martin Luther King holiday on the 17th, and then the board retreat on the 18th. Is that all still in place since we moved those days? Okay, all right, I'm just making sure. Board retreat on the 18th at 11:30-ish, and we'll get more information to you about that. Any other dates? Oh, on Thursday, tomorrow night, there is the a Zoom meeting of the Catawba Regional for elected officials from 4:30 to 6:30, and I'm trying to get y'all a link to for some reason they sent it to me, and I'm not even elected, so.
I saw the link you had sent.
Yeah,
that
but it
sort
wouldn't
of,
work.
but it did not say
Didn't work.
time or anything else.
Well, it's 4:30 to 6:30, so if you can get the link, I guess you're good. I don't know, I didn't think the link would work.
No, the link didn't work for me.
Okay.
Oh, that's
and-
because it's not
Maybe
tomorrow.
it doesn't work till tomorrow.
Right, but like you said, there was no time, date,
Yeah, I didn't
place,
have a
so
time, anything, yeah.
I did see 4:30 to 6:30.
Okay.
So we're trying to
Okay.
clarify that, sounds like.
And it's,
Okay.
okay. I know that part's right, but I'm not
Okay.
sure. There may be some other dates on there that I missed. Board members, anything?
Well, you on
No.
here that you're December 7th on Friday?
Yes, we got the joint meeting of the school boards on the 7th, that's right, here at our district office.
So I may be the dial-in on that because I will be in the car headed to Charleston for state board stuff. So
Okay.
I'll be the dialer-inner that time.
Right, right. Other questions? Okay. The enrollment update, as we limp along each time, we gain about 15 to 20 kids. You see a gain of 17 since December 7th. So we're up to, we're gonna get the 18,000 at some point. We're gonna ring the bell like they do when they sell a car in the dealerships. So we're getting there. We'll soon be there. But those are the numbers. Any questions about those numbers?
It's not about that, and I actually don't know this answer. Did we have changes from in-person to virtual, virtual to in-person? Any of that with the semester? Maybe a few at the high school level, probably. I think that was the only one that yeah, okay.
Okay, and then the enrollment winners for the month of
Attendance.
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 attendance. Yeah, excuse me, you're right, Mr. Miller. Monthly school attendance awards for Fort Mill High School with an attendance rate of 94.687, Springfield Middle, attendance rate of 95.879, and the overall winner, Springfield Elementary, with a rate of 96.833. So there you go, Springfield Elementary.
And,
Great.
you know, I continue to say, I know it's hard, I know we've got teachers out every day, but we're still in the 90s, and that's fantastic, all things considered.
But that's what we were pre-COVID too.
Right.
The numbers haven't dipped
No.
Right,
since
right.
before March 2020. So that's what's impressive.
Yep.
Yeah, and I've got some other good news tonight. I was informed during the holidays, and I can't reveal the school, but we will be, one of our schools will be announced as a National Blue Ribbon School of Excellence. We'll probably find out in March or so, and that's based on student achievement performance, so real excited about that. They do 5 schools in the state. The last winner we had was back in 2007, I believe, was Gold Hill Elementary, right, Josh, I think? And I don't want to, I don't want to mess our luck up. I don't want to mess anything up, so I'm not going to reveal until I get the official letter. But I did get a call from Molly Spearman, and we do have that good news coming. So it'll be what? Yeah.
That's right. Hey, 344, right?
Right?
344.
Exactly.
And that's in spite of, when you think about it, we had 3 months in 2000, when did this thing start? 2019 or 20? 20?
March of
Okay,
20.
no, it was March of 19, wasn't it?
No, it was March of 20, I
All right, so we had
promise.
3 months there of virtual, which we were not in school. Then we had 6 months of AV. Then we were back
For some, yeah.
before most districts in the state.
With what, a third completely virtual?
With the third. So we virtually lost 9 months. And so just real proud of the gains we have made. So you talk about an international issue in regards to effective schooling and adequate instructional time. So like you said, Celia, the attendance has mirrored that too. So
And our teachers showed up today instead of walking out, right? Right.
some across the
So-
country are walking out,
Yeah.
yeah. So
So thank you.
I think that's all I have unless there are other.
All right, well then we are in need of an executive session to receive personnel recommendations and to discuss legal issues.
Motion to go into executive session.
All right. We are in executive session. Thank you everyone for joining. Have a great evening and Happy New Year.